It is time to thin our citrus. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today. It is a very early morning in August 2019. So where we're at, we're back here in our citrus area of the farm. We've got a lot of citrus trees that are all going on in the same spot right here. And you know what? Middle of summer at this point, fruit set is solid. We've got trees that are starting to droop because there's way too much on them. So we need to get to thinning. So what I wanted to start with is the tree that we've been most impressed with, and that's the tree you see behind me here. It's our daisy mandarin. Now, we talked about this tree multiple times, had amazing harvests off it. I'll link one of the videos here so you can take a peek at that. We did show you how we pruned our citrus on this tree, and you can see behind me it is overloaded with fruit. So let's look in more detail at why we need to thin. Okay, so this branch is a perfect example of exactly why you need to make sure you thin your citrus. Now, this tree is a more of a dwarfing type tree, so it doesn't get real tall, and we really pruned this heavy this past winter and spring, but you can already see just from the fruit set, it is dragging on the ground. So one of the things I know I had some questions about when I showed the pruning on this tree was just how high I was bringing the tree and how heavily I was pruning it. This is why, because when it gets its fruit set, it starts dragging the branches right back down. So I've already come through, I've done a little bit of thinning, but you can see we've got just fruit all over the place. I mean, I've got one branch here in the very tip has got 4 pieces of fruit on it. So definitely time to start thinning this out. Obviously, when it comes to thinning, Lori and I are going to be going through and thinning this tree here in a moment. We're going to be looking for smaller fruit, so we're going to be taking off any of the smaller fruit, any fruit that looks damaged. You know, we've got some fruit here that's been sitting on the ground, so obviously we don't want that. But of course, the goal at this point, I want to make sure we're saving these branches, because obviously we've got a harvest coming off of this here in a couple months, and I want to get as many good ripe fruit as we possibly can. So definitely need to come through and thin. I've got this branch here, it's already touching the ground. I've got another one in the back that's really, really close. Got another one behind me here that's also wanting to drag down into the ground. So we've got a lot of thinning that we're gonna start here with our daisy mandarin. So Lori, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get this thinned. Okay, so we're done with our first tree this morning. So daisy mandarin's done. You can see still just overloaded with fruit, but to give you an idea, that's what we pulled off of this tree here in the last few minutes. So we got a few hundred pieces of fruit in there. I'm gonna say we probably thinned a good 50% or so, maybe just a little bit plus or minus 10% or so, but we did get a lot of fruit off of this tree. So now it's gonna have a good chance of supporting the rest of this production, giving us some nice healthy pieces of fruit. So let's look at our next tree. Okay, so the next tree we're gonna look at is our lime tree, our Bear's lime tree. You can see it behind me here. Man, I'll tell you what, I love this variety of lime here for the desert. But if Lori wants to slide in, let's look at a reason why we're actually not gonna thin this tree. So if you see here, you can see I have several pieces of fruit that are on this one branch. I've got one branch here, and I've got, what, 5 pieces of fruit that are all here, and they're ripening just fine. In fact, we started harvesting limes about a month ago, and we'll continue harvesting for the next couple of months. So now, this particular variety, it is a nice big lime. However, the tree itself, because it's a dwarf, and the way we've pruned it, it actually can support a good amount of production, and we don't mind if limes are a little bit on the small side. Makes it a little bit easier to mix your drinks. Okay, so the next variety we're going to look at is still here in our mandarin forest. We got several mandarin varieties in here, and this is our gold nugget mandarin. Now, the gold nugget mandarin, we have not talked about this variety before, and that's because for the first time this year, we actually have some fruit on it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and see if we need to do any thinning on this tree. Okay, so now looking at this tree, I don't think there's much in the way of thinning we're actually gonna have to do. So I'm looking at this branch right here. I've got a couple of small pieces of fruit, a couple of doubles, and you can see this branch is a little bit thinner. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off this small piece of fruit here. I've got this double on the end. The fruit actually looks pretty good. You know, I know gold nuggets are pretty small fruits, so really not too worried about that. Looking back in here further, I've got one here where I've got 3 pieces of fruit all on one branch. So looking at these 3, I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull off this middle one here, so give it a little more even spacing. Looking at this one here, I've got 2 pieces of fruit really close together, so I'm gonna go ahead and lose the small one there. I've got another piece of fruit here right on the end of the tree that's already got some sun damage on there, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Then looking at the rest of the tree, I've got a couple areas where I've got a couple doubles. We're gonna go ahead and go through there. We'll pull a couple of those off, but for the most part, I think this tree itself is gonna be able to support its production this year. Okay, so here we are right next to our lime tree. You'll see our chicken coop in the back, and this is our Valencia orange. So this orange, I don't think we've talked about this one before either. We've gotten a couple of small harvests off of it, nothing too exciting, but the fruit set this year was actually very, very good. The tree itself actually is a pretty well-balanced tree. It's got a nice thick trunk on it. The pruning that we've done on it has been pretty extensive on the bottom, so it's given it a chance to come down. So overall, I think we're gonna be okay. I've got no doubles that I can see. Overall, I think the fruit set on here and the tree itself, it's stocky enough, the branches are stocky enough to support the fruit set that we have this year. So again, I think thinning here, I think we're good to go. Okay, so here we are at our ruby grapefruit. Now we talked about this tree before as well. In fact, this past year we actually got a really, really late thinning on this tree. Had actually some basically almost completely ripe fruit because we forgot to thin about this time of year. So now we're here on time. So looking at the tree, if Lori wants to slide in a little bit closer, you'll be able to see. So we've got a lot of fruit here on this one branch. I've got, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 9 or 10 fruit all here on the same branch. You can see already starting to get some premature ripening here, which actually is not really a good sign. And then the tree itself, we did some heavy pruning from the bottom to get this tree raised up off the ground a bit. But you can see this is already starting to drag down. Gonna have a serious lack of quality on the fruit if we don't thin here pretty heavily, and also broken branches. So I want to make sure I get these guys thinned so we can make sure we get some good fruit production off here this winter. Okay, so it took us a few minutes, but we went ahead and we got this tree taken care of. You know, one of the things that we're noticing with this grapefruit tree, it really likes to set fruit low on the tree and up inside. So it does a really good job of protecting the fruit from the sun. And actually when we pruned this, I pruned it so there's kind of a little cave on the inside that you can get up into and you can harvest really well. And in this case, we were thinning. But if Lori wants to pan down, you'll see just how much grapefruit we took off of this tree. So we probably pulled, I'm gonna say probably a good 50% or so of the grapefruit off of this tree. I'm guessing we probably have a good 30 to 40 pounds or more of grapefruit that we just thinned off this tree. Still has a nice heavy fruit set, so looking forward to ruby red grapefruits. So let's take a look at the last tree we have to thin today. Okay, so this is the last tree for today. This is our Trevita orange. So this is an Arizona sweet orange. We've talked about this tree before as well. Had a very, very good harvest off of this tree. One of the things about this tree, we were late on thinning last year. Had a very, very heavy fruit set, and it actually was doing some damage to the tree. The tree itself had really struggled. And what we do find with this tree, and you can kind of see it, we get some leaf curl and some struggling in this tree. So now this tree, we actually purchased from Lowe's, I believe. It was either Lowe's or Home Depot. So it is definitely a citron rootstock. Not happy at all with that rootstock and its performance here in Arizona. I know we've talked about that briefly, but I can definitely see that in the tree. In fact, you guys can see it too. You've seen several of our citrus trees so far this morning, and this one is struggling where everybody else is actually doing pretty good. And for Arizona sweet varieties, they're typically very aggressive growers and they grow really, really well. Shouldn't typically look like this, but either way, we've got a heavy fruit set. So if Lori wants to slide in, you can see these fruit are still nice and small, so they're about half the size of what they would be. And you can see I've got triples in a few spots. I've got another, well, actually this was a quadruple. It's got 4 of them there. So a lot of doubles, a lot of triples, some quadruples in here. So we definitely need to go through. We need to thin this tree out because it's struggling a little bit here with our 110, 115 degree days. We're going to remove some of this fruit, give it a chance to thrive a little better, and give us some nice, healthy fruit this winter. So let's go ahead and get this last guy thinned. Okay, so that took us a few minutes. We went ahead and got this thinned. If Lori wants to pan down, you can see what we've taken off the tree. A lot of smaller pieces of fruit because next to grapefruit, oranges do look small. But we probably pruned, I'm gonna say a good 30 to 40% of the fruit off of this tree. Definitely relieved a little bit of pressure off of this tree. Hopefully it'll bounce back here a little bit. I am seeing a little bit of new growth on here, which is a good sign. But I think we're done with thinning. Okay, so I think we finally got ahead of our citrus thinning this year. You know, this last season we basically forgot to thin. So, you know, we got a lot of things going on with the new property that we're gonna be moving on to here in about a month or so. So we're just wanting to make sure as we wrap up things here on this farm that we're treating everything well for the new owners. But you know what, 2019 thinning of citrus, we're good. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. And our Amazon page, I'll leave a link down in the description. That is a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start your Amazon shopping with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. So, holy... Okay, did you see that dive bomber come? Man, you... I wish I had a tennis racket to smack those things. It's still coming. It's still going. Okay, we've got Japanese beetle dive bombers right now. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. Those things are, God, where do you want it? Those things are actually, they're either dumb or fearless. I can't figure out what it is. Okay, Japanese beetle exited. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of... Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stand still, and he landed on my head. He landed on my head. This is why they freak me out. Yes. Okay. That was weird. I'm gonna still wrap this up.